You don't want a toxic relationship. You don't want chaos, games, clinginess, or somebody breathing down your neck. You want something healthy, calm, mature, respectful, spacious. But if you have dismissive avoidant patterns, healthy can quietly turn into something else. It can start meaning nobody needs too much from you. Nobody gets too close. Nobody asks the questions that make your chest tighten for reasons you can't explain. It can start meaning peace when really it's distance with good branding. And that's where it gets weird. Because from the outside, you can look incredibly self-aware, grounded, independent, hard to rattle. But deep down, part of you may be calling a relationship healthy simply because it never forces you to feel. Not because it's safe, because it's controlled. Picture this. You're texting someone who is kind, consistent, emotionally available. No drama, no mixed signals, no games. On paper, it's exactly what people say you're supposed to want. And yet somehow, you feel tired, irritated, a little trapped. They ask how your day was, and the question feels heavier than it should. They say they miss you, and instead of feeling warm, you feel pressure. You start needing more alone time, more work, more distractions, more reasons to keep one foot out the door. Then you tell yourself the story that feels the most reasonable. Maybe they're just too much. Maybe you just value freedom. Maybe the connection isn't right. But here's what's really happening. What you often call a healthy relationship isn't random. It usually follows a pattern. Your system learned early that closeness can come with obligation, exposure, or subtle loss of self. So now, what feels good isn't always genuine intimacy. Sometimes it's just low emotional demand. You're not broken. You're adapted. And once you see the pattern, you can stop romanticizing emotional distance as wisdom. Because there are 5 specific reasons your version of healthy can get distorted, and number 3 is usually the one people miss. Number 1. You confuse calm with emotional invisibility. Most people think a healthy relationship is simply one without conflict. But for you, no conflict can also mean nobody is reaching me where I'm tender. If nobody is knocking on the deeper door, you get to feel relaxed. You get to stay composed, untouched. It's like living in a beautifully designed house where no one is allowed in the rooms that matter. Of course it feels peaceful. Nothing is being disturbed. So when someone is low maintenance, emotionally self-contained, or happy to keep things surface level, it can feel ideal. Not because the bond is strong, but because the bond isn't testing your protective structure. You're not cold, you're defended, and there's a difference. But the next part goes deeper, because sometimes your standards are actually armor with better vocabulary. Number 2. You call it high standards when it's really controlled access. You might say you want maturity, emotional stability, and a partner who respects boundaries. And to be fair, those things matter. But dismissive avoidant patterns can take real standards and turn them into a velvet rope no one can pass. Suddenly, every bid for closeness looks slightly suspicious. Every emotional need feels vaguely excessive. Everyone gets evaluated, filtered, and kept at a polite distance where they can admire you, but not fully touch you. It's like having a phone on permanent low battery mode. Even normal connection feels like too many apps running at once. So you become ruthless about what gets in. You're not impossible to love. You're hard to access. And that can look sophisticated until you realize it also keeps you lonely. But here's the part people miss. This isn't just mindset. It can live in your body too. Number 3. Your nervous system can read intimacy as overstimulation. Sometimes the issue isn't the person. It's the amount of signal. A healthy partner is consistent. They follow up. They notice changes in your tone. They want repair after distance. They remember what you said last week. For someone who craves closeness, that feels secure. For you, it can feel like having every notification turned on at once. Your threat detection system may not scream danger in obvious ways. It can whisper it. Through restlessness, numbness, a sudden urge to be alone. The strange feeling that something is off, even when nothing is actually wrong. That's why you can feel more chemistry with emotionally unavailable people. They don't flood your system with connection. They leave gaps. And gaps feel breathable. You're not uninterested. You're overstimulated. And if you don't catch that, you'll keep mistaking regulation for boredom and distance for compatibility. Which leads to the next trap. And this one hides behind the word freedom. Number 4. You protect autonomy so hard that closeness starts to look like captivity. Freedom matters to you. Space matters. Having your own mind, your own rhythm, your own inner territory matters. But when attachment fear sits underneath that value, togetherness can start feeling like erosion. A text becomes an expectation. A routine becomes a burden. A caring partner becomes somebody standing too close to the edge of your private world. So you pull back, not because they did something terrible, but because your identity starts flickering the second someone gets emotionally significant. It's like wearing a coat stitched from self-reliance for so long that even warmth feels invasive. You're used to carrying yourself. Being deeply known can feel less like relief and more like losing leverage. You're not selfish, you're guarding selfhood. But if you only feel safe when no one can affect you, that isn't freedom. That's isolation wearing a cool outfit. And the final piece is the most ironic one of all. Number 5. You may call the relationship healthy because it lets you avoid needing anyone. This is the hidden reward. If a relationship asks very little of you emotionally, you get to keep the fantasy that you are completely fine on your own. Untouchable, efficient, uncomplicated. There's a dopamine hit in that identity. It feels clean, it feels powerful. No messy dependency, no humiliating longing, no waiting by the phone feeling like your chest has turned into static. So you choose people, dynamics, or definitions of love that never require full surrender. Then you call that balance. But sometimes it's just a system designed to protect you from the ancient ache of needing and not being met. You're not above attachment, you're managing your exposure to it. And once that clicks, your whole definition of healthy starts to shift. Because here's the beautiful contradiction. You can be the person who seems the least needy and still be carrying enormous unspoken needs. You can look detached while feeling everything in private. You can want love deeply and still flinch when it arrives in a form that can actually stay. That paradox is the heart of this pattern. You're guarded, but not because you feel too little. Usually because you feel more than you want anyone to see. You learned to turn down the volume on your visible needs, not because you had none, but because needing felt dangerous, inconvenient, or expensive. So the real contradiction is this. The part of you that protects your independence may also be starving your intimacy. The wall isn't proof that you don't care. Sometimes it's proof that caring has always felt like the highest risk activity in your emotional life. Still, this pattern has a shadow side. Not every desire for space is avoidance, but not every preference for easy is wisdom either. Sometimes what you call peace is actually disengagement. Sometimes what you call standards is fear with a polished resume. Sometimes the relationship feels good because nobody is asking you to show up in the places where you usually disappear. That doesn't make you wrong. It just means self-protection can quietly become self-sabotage when it keeps you loyal to emotional half-light. A gentler reframe is this. Instead of asking, "Does this person give me enough space?" you might start asking, "Can I stay connected to myself without disconnecting from them?" That question changes everything. It moves you away from total shutdown and towards something more honest. Space with warmth, closeness without collapse, autonomy without exile. Because a truly healthy relationship probably won't feel like total emotional neutrality. It will feel like safety with signal, breathing room with tenderness, the strange, unfamiliar relief of not having to vanish in order to stay yourself. And maybe that's the real shift. Healthy love is not the one that asks nothing from you. It's the one that doesn't punish you for being human. It's the one where closeness stops feeling like a trap and starts feeling like a place your nervous system can slowly stop performing inside. You were never too independent for love. You were just taught that needing less was safer than being seen. So the work isn't becoming somebody clingy, dramatic, or endlessly open. It's learning that intimacy doesn't have to cost you your identity, that being known is not the same as being controlled, that love can come close without swallowing you whole. Team, I need space, or team, I pull away when it gets real. And if this hit a little too hard, watch the next video on why emotionally available people can feel boring at first. Because that piece explains everything this pattern does next.